Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Boss podcast. Today is just an episode with me, so a solo cast, if you will, because I really wanted to talk to you about designing a business that fits your life, not the other way around. We so often hear conversations around building a business, building a business, and then by default, we try to fit our life into the background. And I really truly believe that it is supposed to be the other way around. We are supposed to build and design businesses that fit our life, not fit our life into the gaps of our business. So, this is often talked about by lifestyle coaches or like life coaches or business coaches. There's a lot of people that left their 9 to 5 and literally just turned around and created themselves another one. But instead of 9 to 5, it's like, 8 to 7 or 7 a.m. to midnight because we spend, instead of 40 hours a week working on someone else's business, we're now working 80, 90, 100 hours a week on our own business. I'm guilty of this. I have done this. I unintentionally started a business and then got intentional about working on my business because I wanted that freedom, but then found myself really just trapped. I was stuck in overworking, people pleasing, and saying yes. Like I was a chronic yeser. If that's a thing, I don't even know. We're going to make it a thing. But like I chronically said yes to everything. My motto was really like say yes and figure it out for the longest time. When I was running a social media management agency for the 5 years that I was running that in Texas, there wasn't a no. I didn't say no to potential clients. I didn't say no to opportunities or ideas. I said yes to everything, and then I would just figure it out. And while that's a strategy, I guess, it's not a great one. It's not a effective strategy, and it certainly did not keep me from feeling trapped in my business, and it certainly did not create the freedom and the ability to expand and grow and live life on my own terms. And so I've talked about it a couple of times, but like part of my journey into the business that I have today was leaving Texas, leaving my abusive marriage, and really spending time figuring out what mattered to me, why it mattered, and what I was willing to do to accomplish it and keep it. That understanding of my core values, that going deep into my core values really allowed me to identify what I wanted my business to feel like and what I wanted to create for my life so that I could feel the freedom, so that I could feel successful. So the question I want to kind of talk about today is, what does a business that supports your life actually look like? So, in this episode, we're going to talk about some practical things. I want to talk about how to audit your calendar to make sure that it actually aligns with your life. We're going to talk about boundaries because those are super crucial. And I'm obviously going to talk a little bit about, kind of how I apply these things to my business and how I got to where I am. But I also want to cover kind of the conversation around making business decisions based on your goals for how you want to live your life and how you want to feel every day, not just the amount of dollars you want to take home, or the amount of dollars that you think you should be taking home. And we're going to kind of talk about my own work schedule and how I've reprioritized some things to make sure that I'm getting enough rest, but I'm also getting enough growth. And really bringing in some sustainability and the shifts that I've made along the way to help me really step into what feels easy in my business, not just what feels good, I guess, right? Like it's about feeling easy but still doing the work, and not just like, ooh, it's so floaty and fluffy and bleh. No, no. We talk about real shit here. We talk about real shit. So let's start by talking like tactical. We're going to talk about a calendar audit. I do this, I try to do it quarterly. Probably realistically, I'm doing it more like twice a year. Although with AI, it's getting easier and easier to just like quickly adjust and make changes. But where is your time going? Like legitimately, where is your time going? Your calendar directly reflects your priorities, whether you like it or not. That is like legitimately what is happening in your calendar. So I want you to pause what you're doing. If you have the capacity, if you're like driving or whatever, then like come back to this. But I want you to pause this and open your calendar. Okay? Come back to me when you've opened your calendar. I want you to ask yourself some questions as you look at your calendar from last week. How much of your time was spent on high impact, revenue generating tasks? So that high impact revenue generating tasks would be coaching, like actually like working with your clients. It would be sales calls. It would be like making marketing decisions and implementing like higher level strategies in your business. How much of your week was spent doing that? Guesstimate a number of hours and just kind of like jot it down. How much of your week was spent on busy work or tasks that could have been delegated? Probably more than is ideal. Now, we're not all in a place to delegate. We don't all have that capacity. But when we can look at our calendar and say, oh, yeah, this was not actually work that was moving the needle or making me money. It was just work that felt like it needed to get done. So I felt like I was doing something, right? When we spend more time of our time actually doing the revenue generating tasks and actually doing the work that makes us money, we're actually able to make delegating decisions because we have resources to do that. I think there's also something to be said, and this wasn't like on my agenda for today's episode, but there's definitely something to be said for like leaping before you're completely ready. Here's the thing. I worked as a VA, an executive assistant, a social media manager for so many years. And the people who ended up being the most successful and keeping me on their team for like the long haul, not just because I was really good at what I did, but because they understood why they were investing in me. They did it before they were actually ready. They did it before it made sense. And I'm talking like dollars and cents, right? Like they did it before the money was there to like fully onboard someone. There is a balance that we have to achieve in recognizing that we are at our capacity in what we can do for non-revenue generating activities, and then making enough money to actually bring someone in to support us staying in our zone of genius. The more time we can stay in our zone of genius, the better. Now, does it have to be a VA? No. Can it be a tech system? Can it be AI tools? Can it be like coaching and support that actually allows you to make more intentional decisions and be more strategic? Yes, it can. In fact, Enchantria, which is the ecosystem that I run with my business partner, is a prime example of this. And then there's also opportunities inside of there to outsource some of the things you would prefer to delegate. So that was a bit of a rant, but we're gonna get back to here. So how much of your time was spent on high impact revenue generating tasks, and how much of it was spent on tasks that were just like being done for the sake of feeling like you were accomplishing something, and tasks that could have been and probably should have been delegated if you had the resources? So we're going to do this little exercise, and instead of just removing tasks, I want you to map out what your ideal week would actually look like. I want you to, in theory, right, we're going to block off CEO time. We're going to block off time for deep work. This is one that's really, really key for me. And we're also going to block space for rest periods. Two things that I've done in quarter one that have been majorly influential and impactful for how I feel about my business, and then also my capacity to do the revenue generating tasks, is I blocked off a day and a half. So like almost, I think at this point it's like close to like 14 hours. So almost 2 work days of deep level work. That means I'm not answering messages. I'm not answering my phone. I really should be leaving my phone in a different room, but we haven't quite remembered to do that. Um, and I'm not like checking my email or like on social media. I have specific tasks and I'm going to go all the way down into this task until it's fully complete or I run out of that time block. And I won't put a deep work time block on my calendar unless I can do 3 or more hours in a row. Because if I can't do 3 full hours, obviously there's little breaks in there, but like if I can't do 3 full hours, it's not deep enough work for me. And there's something away about the way my brain works that really loves like starting and finishing an entire piece, right? So like it doesn't necessarily have to be a whole project, but I want to start and end an entire blog post. So ideation through like outline, through content writing, through creating the graphics and formatting it and publishing it, and then like scheduling the content all in one fell swoop. That really makes my special brain happy. And I say special with like a lot of love and respect for my own brain, but like sometimes it's a little extra. So we're gonna block off CEO time. We're gonna block off deep work time. We're gonna block off rest periods. I put lunch breaks on my calendar again, and I'm actually honoring them. And while I have a 45-minute break on my calendar, and it's not just lunch, that 45-minute break is like walking my dogs, eating lunch, not at my desk, and then like maybe spending 5 or 10 minutes just like reading, or as the weather warms up and spring starts hitting where I live in Ontario, I want to sit on the porch with my dogs after our walk for a few minutes and just enjoy some sunshine and fresh air. Doing things that are good for my soul, I'm able to come back to work so much like more alive and refreshed and focused. And on the days where I'm like really good about that and get like that extra dose of fresh air, I don't feel like I need a nap later in the afternoon, which is a win for me. We also, in this challenge of our ideal calendar, we want to make sure we're scheduling white space for creativity and problem solving. This is key because if we time block and color block our whole calendar and there's no space for adjustments, there's no space to like follow our energy and follow our creative veins as they show up, we're going to feel frustrated. We're going to feel burnt out. We're going to feel ugh about our business. So make sure there is white space in your calendar. Also, white space is really key in your calendar just to breathe. I've made the mistake too many times of scheduling back to back to back to back calls, right? 3 or more calls back to back where there's no room to even have a pee break. And that's really frustrating for me because I feel like I can't even catch my breath. And the other downside of that is the way my brain works. By the time I'm done with call 3, 4, or 5, I forgot what call 1 and 2 were about. So like, right? Not great. We really want to make sure that there's that white space for our brain to process, take a pause, breathe, etc. What I want you to get from this exercise of looking at your CEO time, your deep work time, your rest periods, and your white space is the difference between being busy and being productive. There's also a conversation to be had around being productive and being purposeful. In fact, I think I'm going to change this to that language. I want you to look at your calendar and see what's being productive and what's being purposeful, right? Your CEO time, your deep work time, and your problem solving time are going to be purposeful work. If we get caught up in being productive and getting things checked off our list and just doing things for the sake of doing things, we're not actually staying in our zone of genius and being intentional and purposeful with the work we're doing. And that's never actually going to help us move the needle. There's, the idea of productivity, doing the right things efficiently, which is great. Busyness is really just about filling up time to feel accomplished, which is where I draw the difference in how I speak about my time and my calendar between productivity and being purposeful, right? For me, busy and productive kind of feel like the same thing and they're not great in my brain. Whereas when I'm being purposeful, I'm doing the right things for the right reasons with intention and focus. And those are the things that move me towards my goals. Where I'm just being productive, it's more about like getting things done for the sake of getting things done, which is kind of where that busy energy comes from. There's also, and I probably will do a whole episode on this in the future, but like doing the right next thing, right? The right next activity in our calendar, the right next task on our to-do list is really key. And something I love to talk about and has been showing up in conversations in the Fempreneur Collective Facebook group, as well as in my one-to-one conversations and in the Enchantria calls as well. Because it's a really key thing, right? Like we can write down a list of 100 things, but if you just move through them A through Z, you might not actually get things done in the right order to actually be intentional or be purposeful or even really move the needle in your business, because you're just checking things off in the order in which you think they should be happening. I really like to evaluate my daily to-do list and make sure that it's ordered in the correct way so that I'm always working on the next right thing. So it's not just a bunch of like, these things need to get done. It's I'm always moving forward, working on the right next thing. So as one thing is done, I double check to make sure that the task that I should be accomplishing next is the one that's going to have the biggest impact on my revenue, my intentionality, my core values, right, around community and leadership and integrity. All of those things come into play in how I choose the right next goal for myself. One of the things we constantly have to ask ourselves is, are we moving forward in our business, or are we just checking boxes? Because if you're just checking boxes, girl, no. I've spent too much time. I'm so guilty of that. That does not actually help us accomplish anything. Our time is an investment. There are so many hours in our day, like not a lot. We only have so many. And I want you to ask yourself this. If you had to buy back your time, where would you invest it? Right? Would you invest your time into a client call that actually, like a sales call, right? Like a client sales call that actually generates revenue? At the end of that call, you have a signed contract and they're transferring you money that moment. Or would you buy back answering DMs all day? Would you spend time finishing the technical aspects of a course that you can sell evergreen, right? So your course in your funnel, now you can put it on evergreen and just have it sell passively in the background? Or would you rather create fancy graphics for Instagram? Where should you be buying back your time? Our time is our most valuable currency. We have to spend it wisely. And that's why I also like to look at energy audits as well as time audits when I'm doing my monthly and quarterly evaluations of how my month went. So there's a lot of tasks we do that can drain us and a lot of tasks we do that light us up. If you are spending too much of your time doing work that drains you, it's a drag. Girl, we got to eliminate that. We got to outsource it, or we just have to like take it off the list altogether. I like looking at my tasks through the 4D lens, and I learned this from a friend years ago. But it's what should I defer? So like push off to another day, delegate, delete, or defer, delegate, delete. What is the fourth one? Oh my gosh, there's a fourth one. It'll come to me probably like in an entirely different episode. But there's 4Ds. Hang on, I'm gonna Google this real quick. Okay, I found it. The fourth D is do. What is the work we should do? What is the work we should defer or delay? The work we need to delegate, and the work we need to delete or just drop entirely off of our to-do list. Those are the 4. I forgot the one where we're actually doing the work. My bad. Okay. So I like to evaluate my task list based on that. I also really like to reflect on a weekly basis on the tasks that like brought me energy and maybe like, fuck yeah, let's go. And then the tasks where I was like, oh my God, do I have to? Because I want to do less of those and more of the let's go kind of tasks and find space for more of those in my daily life. So, an example of this would be back-to-back calls. I love calls. I love chatting with people, but doing them back to back is a no-go for me. I need at least like 15, 20 minutes in between calls. So I have adjusted my booking calendar to reflect that. So, or I've put a limit on how many calls I'll do in a day so that I'm not fully drained by talking, because talking for me is a little bit of like, it eats up my energy reserves differently. The next thing I want to talk about is boundaries. We hear about boundaries a lot in business, but I think it's something that we can always continue to have conversations on. Boundaries are really about establishing the non-negotiables for yourself. And this is really key for building a sustainable business. When we have boundaries, we're not saying no to things or like being like, no, we can't do it. What we're actually doing is putting parameters to create space for the life we actually want and the business we want too. At the end of the day, a lot of people think boundaries are selfish. It's kind of like, I'm holding my boundary. It's not that. Boundaries are about self-respect. You value yourself enough to know that you will not be treated in a certain way, or you will not allow your energy to be drained in certain ways. So you are maintaining self-respect. You are holding space for what you actually want, because if you don't protect your time and your energy, nobody else is going to do it for you. Our boundaries allow us to actually show up fully present in work and life. So I love the idea of creating office hours for yourself. So Lou, who was on one of our earlier episodes, gave a really great tip around she only checks her messages first thing in the morning and at the end of the day. That's a boundary she's put in place. So she knows, first thing in the morning, what needs to be taken care of. At the end of the day, she knows what she's planning to tackle first thing in the morning. And the rest of the time, unless you have like a special way of getting a hold of her, she's not checking her Slack messages. She's not checking her emails. She specifically looks for those at the beginning and end of the day. And that is actually something I aspire to be more like. I want to put a boundary on that, where I'm only checking my email in the morning and then in the evening, right before I sign off for the day, spending a few minutes tidying things up. I think that's really valuable. If we are wise, we put those boundaries in place for our business, and then we communicate them really effectively. So we're letting our clients, we're letting our team members, we're letting our communities know when we're available, so people know how to connect with us, but then also like the rules around when we're not available, right? Leave a message at the beep kind of energy for our lives. And I'll get back to you within these parameters. That allows us to avoid the slippery slope where we're just saying yes to everything all the time and people constantly have access to it. When I'm doing my deep level work, Facebook Messenger is off. My phone is at least upside down, if not in another room. I'm trying to leave it in other rooms, but I don't always do that successfully. And I'm not checking my email. The inbox tab is closed. My Facebook Messenger is like unavailable, and I don't even have Facebook open, and I'm like deep in the work, which means I need to let people know when I'm doing deep work, right? My business partner knows Tuesday mornings, Wednesday mornings, and all day Thursdays are like, don't mess with me times. Not that she messes with me, but like those are the days where I'm getting things done. It is important for me to stay focused, to stay on task, and to stay in the zone. If we deviate from this plan, things are not going to get done. When we say yes to things, we're automatically saying no to other things. So I talked about at the beginning of this episode about how I was like a yes girl. I was a yes and I'll figure it out later. You know what I ended up having to say, what the ramifications of me saying yes all the time was, right? If you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So I was saying yes to collaborations. I was saying yes to additional clients when I really didn't need them or have capacity for them. I was saying yes to like doing work for other people at a lower cost. I was saying yes to too many things. But what I was also doing when I said yes to those things was saying no to respecting my boundaries. I was saying no to sleep, right? Because at the end of the day, if you say yes to too many things and you have a core value of integrity, which means you're following through on your commitments, that means you're going to have to sacrifice something. And for me, it was sleep and ultimately my health. So I was saying yes to all of these, what I called opportunities or, referrals. But in reality, I was also saying no to taking care of my physical well-being, no to getting enough rest, and no to maintaining my own sanity. It's not a good look. It is not a good look, right? If you say yes to a last-minute client request, you might miss family dinner. If you say yes to working on the weekend, you might miss an opportunity to connect with someone really authentically in a beautiful way or make a memory with someone you care about. That's not cool, my friends. That is not cool. We have to set those boundaries. We have to hold them. One of my boundaries is I don't work on weekends with a few parameters, right? So I don't work on weekends is my general boundary. It's the general rule. There are a few exceptions to that rule. One being if there is a pressing deadline that I made choices during the week, right? Sometimes we have to okay, you know what? I need a nap on Wednesday. I'm not feeling well. My reserves are drained, whatever. We are making intentional choices on Wednesday that have a direct impact on Saturday. So occasionally I will make a choice on a weekday that means I now have to adjust my time on the weekend to make up for that. It's an intentional choice. The other thing is if there's some sort of actual emergency where there's a huge tech snafu that's going to directly impact either a specific strategy or a specific goal we have for one of our clients. So for example, if one of our clients was launching on Monday and there was a tech snafu Friday afternoon and it was going to require me putting in some time on Saturday, I would be willing to say yes to that, adjusting my boundary for that. And then every once in a while, I will adjust that boundary to respect my creative flow. So a lot of my weekends are spent being creative. I love to be crafty. I love to sew. I've been playing with polymer clay. I love to embroider. And I've been on a crochet kick where I'm actually making myself sweaters. It's so much fun. So that's different than real work being my business. But I will respect my creative flow for my, 9-to-5 business with my business partner. If I sometimes an idea will spark and I just have to follow that energy. And that is one of the 3 exceptions I will make for not working on the weekends. But I have to know what the rules are, right? There are exceptions to every rule. If the rule is I don't work on weekend, I have 3 exceptions to that. And other than those 3 exceptions, we don't work on weekends. And when I'm implementing one of those 3 exceptions, it is very intentional and it is very specific and it is a specific purpose. And I'm not also answering a bunch of emails, half drafting blog posts, and creating 4 extra graphics for it, right? I'm coming to work on a weekend to specifically do what needs to be done. And then I'm back to my weekend because it's the weekend and I'm not going to mess around and really jeopardize my opportunity to rest, make memories with my loved ones, and really spend time feeding my soul because that's what my weekends are all about. I think it's also important to remember that rest fuels creativity. We have to give our brain breaks to really be at its best. So making sure that we hold that boundary around our weekends is going to allow us to show up even better on Monday. I often get really excited to start work Monday mornings. I wake up early because I'm so well rested from the weekend, and I'm ready and excited to jump into work on Monday morning. And Mondays are often my most productive days because I'm coming off of such incredible beneficial rest and like life breaks from the weekend. I think it's important along this journey of like respecting our boundaries that we also analyze how often we're breaking our own rules. That self-awareness is really key. If we're not aware of when we're like, oops, I let you cross a boundary, then we don't know when we need to like add some layers of protection to that boundary, or when we need to actually have a conversation with someone about them continually crossing that boundary. So it's really important that we communicate our boundaries effectively. Our clients really should value and respect clarity, not just availability, right? I appreciate when someone tells me, here are the boundaries of the program you're in. I'm available Tuesdays from, 9 to 5. Those are my office hours. Feel free to ask me anything. The rest of the week, you can send an email and I'll respond to you when I have capacity. That's beautiful. I love that. Not just for me, but I also love it for the business owner themselves. We have to be able to really communicate our boundaries effectively so that people can know when we're available and have the clarity on how to actually work with us and be supportive. I use an autoresponder on the weekends. If you send me an email, you're going to get an autoresponder that says, hey, I'm out of the office until XYZ, right? When I'm on vacation, you get an autoresponder. I'm out of the office until Monday, this date, and I'll get back to you as fast as I can. Using those things make life easier. It just allows for there to be clarity, right? Especially at the beginning when you start working with someone. The third thing I want to talk about today is revenue versus lifestyle. We're talking about business decisions that align with your life, because not every dollar is actually worth your time. Newsflash, mic drop. Okay? Not every dollar you could make is actually worth investing your time and energy in. And that's really the trap of revenue goals that don't actually serve you. Raise your virtual hand because you're watching this and it's recorded, and I will never know if you raised your hand. But raise your hand if you are so tired of those revenue goals that seem really arbitrary and have no like value, right? All of the time, we're told as entrepreneurs we should have six-figure goals. Six-figure goals. You should be making 100K plus. Okay, sure, right? But like, what about just hitting 5K months? Like, what? Maybe I just need to have 5K months first, not 10K months, not 100K years. What if I just like actually adjust a goal that makes sense for me? Because making more money and working 80 hours a week is not what we're here for. That's not freedom. That is not what we're after. And I'm pretty sure that's not why you started your business. I fell into that trap when I was in that yes girl era, right? In like, it was like 2014, 13, 14, somewhere in there, to about 2019. I was a yes girl. I said yes to every opportunity, every idea. I was working 80 to 100 hours a week and literally burning down my entire soul in the process. That's not freedom. What we have to do is actually reverse engineer our revenue goals based on our lifestyle and the programs that already exist. And fun fact, Sharice and I are actually doing a workshop next week, March the 12th, that's about this, and throwing in some AI magic for funsies, because we use AI to really get specific and strategic with our goals and then like the way we accomplish them. So if you can reverse engineer your goals based on how you want to live and how you want to feel every single day, you're able to shift from the mindset of like time for money to actually scalable offers. And instead of trading dollars for hours, we can explore things like VIP days, evergreen digital products, memberships, recurring revenue opportunities. If you want to work 4 days a week, you have got to create a business model and revenue model that supports that, right? If you don't want to work Fridays, you should not be committing to doing client work on a daily basis, because now you got to do Monday through Friday. If you want Mondays off, then you shouldn't be looking at business programs that require you, or business options that require you to be available on Mondays. We also have to look at what we're charging. The importance of pricing our work correctly cannot be overstated. If you are undercharging and overworking, been there, done that in my Yes Girl era, we are doing ourselves a disservice. How we set our prices should be based on the value of what we're bringing to the table, not just the amount of time it takes us to accomplish it. This allows us to avoid burnout, my friends, because just because our calendar is full doesn't mean we're actually being successful. Just because we have 800 client tasks to accomplish does not mean we're actually successful. Success is about margin, it's about freedom, and it's about sustainability. What I used to do was say yes to everything, sacrifice my sleep to actually accomplish all of the deadlines that were on my calendar, and scramble for money on a constant basis. What I do now is make sure that whatever program or offer is on the table fits into my already existing availability, right? If I wanted to add a new program onto my roster and into my business revenue or business goals, I would need to fit it into a specific time block that already exists. There's some white space on my calendar. There's also like a work block on my calendar that would potentially be a good spot if I wanted to add another group program or one-on-one coaching. There would be a spot for that. If I was going to create something else, it would have to fit into those time parameters. So I would need to be able to execute it, promote it, sell it, and deliver it within that block that already exists. That block exists because I use it for white space, for connecting with people, and for deep level work. If I don't have any connection calls or coffee chats booked, I use it there. If I wanted to do something else, it would have to fit in that space. And there's only one space on my calendar right now until either something else ends or is deleted from my calendar. There's only one spot where I could add in something else. And the reality is, I don't want to add in something else into that space. I love having the opportunity for coffee chats then. I love being able to connect on a deeper level. I love having the option to go deeper for a couple extra hours every week on work that needs to get done. I'm not willing to sacrifice that, so I'm not creating another offer right now. That is a small shift in how I run my business that has made a big difference. The other thing that I do now is that I make sure that I price appropriately. Not everything I do is high ticket. I have a couple of high ticket, really one high ticket one-to-one coaching program that I have that I'm not even really promoting right now because it's not where I want to be spending my time and energy. I'm really loving what we're building in Enchantria, and I'm really loving what I'm building inside of the Fempreneur Collective community and the Facebook group. We've got some fun stuff coming up. And I love spending my time and energy there because that feels really good for me. And where I feel good in the work that I'm doing, I automatically make more money. It's easier for me to get things accomplished. And I stay excited because it feels good. And when we feel good about our business, it's easier to maintain our energy. So those are just some small shifts that have made a huge difference in how I show up in my business. So what does all of this mean? All of this boils down to one thing. If your business isn't supporting the life you want to live, it's time to change the way you work. If you hear nothing else from this episode, it's that statement. That if your business is not supporting the life you want to live, you have to change the way you're doing your work. And that could feel like a bit of a doozy for you, for some of you. So I'm just going to recap quickly these steps I want you to take. Go back and listen to this episode, pause where you need to pause, do the work because it's really going to make an impact in how you're showing up in your business. But I want you to audit your calendar and remove and adjust anything that doesn't fit into the boundaries of how much time you want to be putting into your work. I want you to set actual better boundaries with your clients first, yourself second, and if you have a team, your team needs to understand and know your boundaries as well. I want you to analyze any upcoming business decisions, and I want you to really go into them with the understanding of this is going to impact how I want to live, not just how much money I want to make. And make decisions around your business on how you want to live and what feels good for you inside of your business, not just how much money you could make. And you have to start questioning where your time goes, because you can always make more money. There's always more money to be made, but you can't make more time, and you can't get back those moments that you sacrificed in the past. So what do we do about that? We make better choices, and we honor our time and our availability and hold those boundaries better now. So if this episode resonated with you, please, please, please share it on Instagram, tag me, let me know what your biggest takeaway was. Come hang out with us inside the Fempreneur Collective. We're going to be doing a challenge in a couple of weeks, which I'm super excited about. It starts March 15th. If you're listening to this episode after the 15th, still reach out, because I might be also putting the challenge into a evergreen email sequence that you can follow up on in the future. But, first things first. And I would really love it if you could do me a favor of sharing and rating this episode or the podcast in general. That's super helpful for us to get in front of more entrepreneurs like you who need to hear the stories that my guests come and share, and occasionally these solo podcasts where we go really deep onto some strategy and tactics. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Now it's time to go build your empire.